Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm about to say something for the first time ever publicly. My name is Sharon Chaden Burks. I got remarried and it is official now. So I'm going to start updating all the social medias. So I'll no longer be Chaden Glass, I'll be Chaden Burks. Thanks, guys. So welcome back to Idea Networking Session. I am super excited that you're here. We have two new guest speakers. We have Jared Speight and we have Niki Anderson. And as I understand it, there's some kind of, you guys kind of know each other or have worked in the past or something like that. We'll probably hear more about that. So as you are listening, please feel free to write down your questions and consider who you want to visit in breakout rooms when we go to small groups. You also can travel back and forth between breakout rooms if you'd like to do so. And I think we'll start with Jared. Hand it over to you. About 5 minutes since we have time. If you want to go a little bit longer, it's fine with me. Totally up to you. All right, Jared, it's on you.
Well, thank you. My name is Jared Speight. I was a classroom educator in middle school and high school for 14 years. And then pandemic teaching kind of made me realize that I needed to find a new career path, kind of like a lot of us. So I began blindly applying to jobs at first. I think probably a lot of us in this room did. I applied to like 100 jobs between Thanksgiving break and January the following year and got nothing to show for it. And that's when I realized that I needed to be a lot more intentional about my application process. So I started a grad school program for instructional design and started building my portfolio. And I took a break from applying during that time for a few months. Not too long after that, a few months down the road, I was able to land a contract gig with Junior Achievement as an e-learning developer. I was able to get some income that way and kind of know that I wasn't going back to the classroom the following year. And then 2 months later, I was offered a full-time position as an instructional designer at Stride. And during that time, I hosted a group called the Summer Break Room with GLDC, which is the Global Learning and Development Community. And it was essentially a group that talked about things that I wish I knew back when I was blindly applying for jobs and didn't know what I was doing. So it wasn't like I'm an expert, listen to me. It was these are the hard lessons that I learned, and let's learn from this together and kind of figure out a way to do this better for all of us without each of us having to learn the hard way. And that group was, I think, fairly successful. Niki actually attended the first summer. And we did it again this year, and Niki came back as a guest now that she is a senior instructional designer, which is awesome. So that was kind of my transition into corporate L&D. So I now make videos and courses largely for educators and school leaders. For my company, it's the largest online education provider in the country. But it is nice to not be in the classroom right now and to be developing things behind the scenes as an instructional designer instead. So I think that's really all I have. I know that we'll answer questions when we go to breakout rooms in a little bit, but look forward to chatting with you all and happy to hand it over to Niki or Sharon.
Niki, are you ready? You want me to just switch it to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Niki Anderson. I am an instructional designer. Formerly, I was a teacher for 14 years as well. I taught elementary school from first grade through fifth, and then some high school programs in the summertime and tutoring. Towards the end of my teaching career, I was writing curriculum for my district. A school that I worked at, one school I worked at, closer to the end, we wrote all our own curriculum. So just writing curriculum a lot. So I was kind of used to how that kind of worked. And I'm going to say before the pandemic, I knew I didn't want to teach anymore. I was just really burnt out. I was a teacher that stayed the latest at the school because I wanted to make sure everything was just right in the morning. Doing all kinds of trying to figure out how to make it fun, trick kids into learning by doing fun things. And more, it seemed like we had less and less time for that. In my last 3 years of teaching, I taught first grade and we didn't even have time to color. And I was like, this is horrible. Like first graders should be coloring, right? It's a skill that they should use, right? With their hands and everything. And so I was just looking for something else to do. And then the pandemic hit. And I know most people were like, oh, the pandemic teaching was so horrible. That gave me my reprieve to just breathe, to get through the rest of that school year, because I had already flipped my classroom when I was teaching fifth grade humanities. So I was actually kind of knew about recording lessons, doing things online. So it really wasn't that much more for me to go on and be online for the rest of that school year. But that was my actual last school year in a public school. So the next year I had opened a pandemic pod at my house for my son who has a lot of medical problems. And then I opened it up to other students who might have medical problems as well, starting kindergarten. And I taught kindergarten and for that last year while I was learning, I was in a program to learn how to use all the software to become an instructional designer. Because by the end of my last year, 2021 school year, I knew that I was going to do something else. I had seen something online and I was like, hey, it looks like something I could probably do. I'd never heard of instructional design before, like that was an actual job. But when I found out that it was something that is so aligned with teaching and so close to a lot of the things that I did, I was like, I could totally do that. But I needed to learn the software. So I went through a program, Ada, where I learned how to use all the software that I do all of my work in, and learned how to do, basically take myself out of the teacher's mode, because there's a real difference between being in teacher's mode and working corporate. Learning the lingo, just expectations are different, with the teachers. When you're a teacher, it's like do or die. Like if this is not done by this time, all these children are going to never be able to read again or something, that's how you always feel. And so it's like, everything is like, it's an emergency and you're always putting out fires, and corporate life is not like that. They don't have those. I mean, they want things quickly, but it's not that much of an emergency. Someone goes on PTO in the middle of a project, it's not going to be like the end of the world. And so just understanding these differences and getting my resume together, not sounding like a teacher, because we have a lingo in teaching that when we talk about things and when we talk about ourselves in interviewing, because I went on a lot of interviews. I applied for like over 150 jobs, and that's only the ones I directly applied to. That's not talking about recruiters who contacted me. I sent them my resume. I did interviews with them as well. I was doing like 2 to 3 interviews a week. And this was for that whole summer when I met Jared, and I was like, I'm not sure what's happening here. But I mean, in the beginning, I did sound like a teacher. I definitely sound, and when I talked about things, I talked about it like, I really was very proud of what I did in teaching. And not that I'm not proud of it, right? But the people who I was interviewing with, they couldn't make those correlations and connections about what I did in this once. The skills I used here are the same skills that you would use there. And so the biggest turnaround for me was being able to talk about it, but in a way that my audience would understand, as opposed to just teacher jargon. And so that was a big turning point. And so by the end of the summer, I got a contract, a 3-month contract that got extended. It got extended. Then they had a full-time position I applied for. And I now work at my company, Walters Kluwer. And it'll be a year now, but I was a contractor during this time last year. And so at my job, I just make and I do a lot of e-learnings, VILTs, job aids for new hire sales reps that are coming on, so they can get up to speed on all the products and solutions that are sold through tax and accounting.
That's awesome. I have so much that resonates with what you said. When you were talking, I wrote down words crisis management. When did teaching become like the top skill is crisis management? It's so reactive. And that was a huge shift for me, Nikki, like moving from, oh my God, put this fire out right now to let's think long-term planning. I'm like, do we have time for that? It's like, oh, we do. Oh, and maybe that's kind of needed in project management. But like teaching is just like rapid project management, like just, and you don't realize you're doing it, but you get really, really good at doing it really, really fast, that it's a different skill set to like slow the whole thing down and evaluate as you go along. So did you have that same experience?
I definitely did. And when you're a teacher, you're always putting out those fires, and you have to think fast on your feet because things change. You can plan out everything perfectly and it's not going to go that way. And so you have to just know, like, you have to be able to pivot, and you have to be able to go in a new direction. You have to be able to redirect people back. And so definitely um it's a big change, because for the longest, when I first started working, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get this thing done by this time. And I and they might throw a date out there, but that might not necessarily be when it needs. But I'm trying to get it done by that date, because in my head, as a teacher, we have to get things done immediately.
Done in stone, right?
Yes.
And then Jared, I had something to ask you. It was oh, you were talking about the process of applying. You said that you were doing a lot of applying, and then you had to stop and rethink and figure out how to reapproach it differently. Can you speak just a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the first 100 applications, like I said, they were not focused at all. I was applying to multiple positions. I didn't really have anything I was really shooting for. And I was running away from teaching, I guess, and not running toward a new career. So after that completely bombed, and I realized this is not going to work, it's not a path forward. I sat down and I just thought about what parts do I really love about teaching? What am I good at? And then how can I do that outside of the classroom? And I was looking over a bunch of jobs, went through like teacher transitions to these jobs list, there's all kinds of articles out there. And I stumbled across instructional design. Like, that is it. That's what I want to do. It's all the things that I wish I could have done as a teacher if I had more time, like really interactive lessons, really engaging videos, actually engaging with learning science. So I began to upskill with the graduate program. I built my portfolio because my graduate program was great for learning theory, but not so much application. So I knew that I had to do that kind of on my own on the side. And then I began networking a lot. And that's actually where my first big break came from, because that contract job that I got was not posted. It came because of a connection who shared a post on LinkedIn. And I was like, hey, I want that. I can do that job. And that led to an interview. The interview went well and it got my first job. And I know that I would not have gotten my current role if I didn't have that contract job first. So it was kind of a snowball. After the first thing fell into place, other things did too. And that's one thing that I've heard from a few other educators as well. It's kind of when it rains, it pours. You get nothing for so long, but then when you get one thing, you get a bunch. During my first interview for Stride, during that interview, I got a phone call from a recruiter with a job offer. It's like, well, what do I do now? I like this company. I like Stride more than what the other one was, but it was kind of a crunch for time, right? So it's just a matter of being more intentional. After getting no results for the first 100 applications, I applied for a total of 40 after I took that break. And I got 3 offers out of that. So it was a much higher success rate once you slow down. And I know that seems counterintuitive, that when you narrow things down and you take your time, that you get better results. But that was my reality. And it seems to be a pretty common thing.
That's awesome. It's really good to hear. Okay. Denise is asking, would you lean into networking more than a formal ID program? Do either of you feel like addressing that? We have a couple minutes before we go to breakout rooms.
Nikki, you can go first.
Oh, I would definitely say it's kind of like, I feel like both. I got a lot out of the program I personally was in. I learned how to use authoring tools and how to create design documents and storyboarding, which I didn't know. You can probably find that information online if you knew how to look for it. But I got a lot out of my particular program, but you need to network. Like, you can't just be in your classroom and you close the door and it's just you anymore. Okay. You have to network. You have to get to know people. You have to build your connections, because even if a connection is like, when you're first getting connections, even though you're getting them, and when you're a teacher, you're like, I don't actually need LinkedIn, because I was on LinkedIn for a long time as a teacher, but I never used it, right? But you need these connections because, you know, you can start hearing about things that you wouldn't have heard about, like Jared said, right? Or, you know, people, if you post a lot, people might think about you when they're have somebody in mind for a job, and they might just reach out to you. By building your network and your connections, you start being seen more by recruiters. I got my job from a recruiter who just reached out to me. I didn't apply for it. I didn't see it. It wasn't on a job board or anything like that. A recruiter reached out to me and said they had a job. Can I have my resume? They put it in. I had an interview and I was hired. So you need to network. Like, that's part of it. Like, you can't just, the days of, you know, you just in your classroom, you shut the door, that's over. You have to network, and that's just the step forward that you have to take. And I know it's very intimidating. I don't like it at all personally. I started out, I had like less than 100 connections, and they were like, no, you have to have at least 500. I'm like, I don't know 500 people. And it's like, that's crazy. And so, but just going to things like this and just like connecting with people, there were lots of different free trainings that I saw coming up on LinkedIn that I would sign up for and go to. And in those things, people are swapping names. And then you start coming up in people's reels, and you come up, you know, and your analytics start going up. And when those start going up, recruiters see you. And then they want to see your resume. And so that opens up a whole nother door. So I feel like both are important. I feel like both can be important. One, the networking is going to get you doors open that you wouldn't have gotten for yourself. And a formalized program could be important if you're not diligent enough to go and find out how to use authoring tools and figure out what the things are that you need to be able to do.
I totally second that. I okay, this is going to sound just not correct, but I don't like networking either. I like people. I like people when I get to know them, but I'm an introvert at heart, and man, it's hard when you're like strangers. Oh, I gotta think of something to say. Oh, I hope I don't sound dumb. Oh, I hope they're not, you know, I don't know, someone that says something that I'm gonna feel super awkward with, you know. But I like people. I like being around people. It's just that first, you know, couple minutes of, you know, they're probably awesome. Maybe I enjoy this too. Ah, I feel you. All right, I think we're ready. I think we're ready for some breakout rooms. So let me pause the recording here. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Before we go into our whole group Q&A, our next session is Tuesday, October 3rd from 7 to 8 p.m. And one of our guest speakers is actually here right now because she told me she just got a job this past June. Melody Pancheri. Did I say it right, Melody? Pancheri?
Pancheri. Yep, you're right. Mm-hmm.
Melody Pancheri. So she's going to join us in October along with Raphael. I don't know if it's eBay or eBay. I'm going to say eBay. But they both have been coming to the networking sessions over the past 6 months. I think, Melody, you said since December.
Yes.
Both of them have jobs now, so they're going to come talk about it. Okay, I think that was all my announcements. Should we just open it up for questions? Anybody have something to ask? And Alicia puts in the chat her link to her LinkedIn profile, and if you're feel free to do the same to connect with each other. It's a good idea. I need to get the Zoom link registration for next time. Any questions out there?
I have a quick question.
Who's
Hi, it's Felicia.
Oh, there you are. There you are.
Sorry, I know. Am I popping up yet? I think my internet's
you're all
a little stable too. No, I was just wondering if there's anything that you would recommend diving into a bit more on our journey to becoming instructional designers, like things that are trending right now, things that are really being talked about a lot. I know I just attended, well, I'm watching the webinars from TLDC about accessibility. Anything that's really coming up that we could be better prepared for when we're going into this field at this point?
Accessibility is definitely the one thing I would say to focus on because it's a lot easier to learn about accessibility and then put it into practice than to go back after you've made something and make it accessible. Just being aware of exactly what you're doing as it's happening.
Agreed.
And a few resources I would say for that. You mentioned the TLDC conference. There's also WebAIM, WEBAIM. They have an accessible documents course for Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Acrobat. Cost $125 free if you have any disability. And you learn how to make accessible documents there. And there's also a program called Trusted Tester through the Department of Homeland Security. It's about web accessibility, but that carries over into our e-learning courses. So you learn a lot about the WCAG requirements, how to meet those, what all you need to be including as things in your e-learning development courses. I would not recommend starting that until January, though, because they're revamping the program. So if you start now, you have to finish by December 31st, or else you have to restart when they make the new one. So hold off on that one. It will take you a while. It's a very long program, and it's very difficult because they want you to do it right. But that opens up a lot of doors for you as well. And even being knowledgeable about accessibility when you're talking in a job interview goes a long way because it shows that you have put in the effort and that is a priority for you. And it's the legal requirement. Companies have to do it.
Yep.
So knowing that it matters to you and that you've taken time to learn about it, that can be a leg up.
Yeah, 100% agree. One thing I will add, we've been looking, Jan had in here AI, very first thing. We have been looking at how to use AI to streamline some of our processes within our community college in instructional design. And we did a little test, a pilot testing out the ID Assist that I showed either last session or the session before that. It's a Chrome extension that with like specific instructional design skills on it, like learning objectives, video scenario, stuff like this. And we put that up against ChatGPT. And with ChatGPT, we just told it, I think what we said was create a 16-week intro to biology class for college freshmen with 3 to 5 objectives for each 16 weeks. And it did it in like 45 seconds. I'm sure you've heard these stories about what it can do, but I just thought we could so use that to motivate our faculty members that get stuck. They get stuck. We have a process where we ask them to basically map out their class. We call it a course alignment document. And we say, map out your learning objectives, your activities, and your assessments before we even get started. And that people get hung up there all the time. So what if we use this tool to be like, okay, here's a draft of what could be, and it is not necessarily aligned with your textbook, but you could take this and you could hone it to the way that you want it for your class. And sometimes I feel like that could be, getting people unstuck so we can get moving. Nikki, do you have anything to add either about any other trend or AI or whatever you feel like saying?
I would say like AI is really starting to be quite amazing when it comes to the amount of time it takes to do things, and just like creating an outline for something, right? Like I'm making a training on X. I haven't met with the SME yet, subject matter expert. What would be a topic, an outline for building a training on this? And they'll take all the information that they know about it and create something for you. So you have like, at least you can know the right questions and directions that might go, right? And it's scary, but it's out there, and there's so many different things, and I don't even know the name. My team has just started using this other AI tool where it's an actual person, looks like just like a person, and they're talking. I mean, it still sounds like, as good as Well Said Labs or something, but I would not believe anything I see on video now because of it. because it's so lifelike, like it's crazy. And then like Beyond Go, you can go to Beyond Go now and give them the topic, and they'll write the script and make the whole video. And you have to go back and tweak it because sometimes their stuff's a little bit off. But I mean, just understanding and just having an idea of what those AI tools are, because everybody in the industry, they're not using it. So if you know about it and these quicker things, depending on what their legal department says on how they can use it, I would suggest just understanding that it's out there and that these are tools that you can use. Now, they won't make everything for you. Don't try to make everything for you, right? That's plagiarism. We're all teachers. We all know about that, right? But just know these tools can really help guide you in a direction that, it would have taken you many hours of your day to try to figure out all the information to gather for something. And so just trying to understand AI, don't fight against it. Know that it's happening. And as long as you know it's happening, understand where it's happening from, what types there are, and maybe hearing the conversations about what's good and bad about them, being part of those conversations, because it's happening whether we like it or not.
So
And
you can't stop it. Go ahead,
No.
Jared.
Just to echo what Nikki's saying, like being aware of the good, but also the bad, and being very careful about how you can legally use it. Most companies, if they do not already have it, are working on AI guidelines. We came back, and that was like the first thing we had after Labor Day was, this is our new policy, and it could change completely tomorrow, right? There's all kinds of lawsuits out there about intellectual property, who actually owns this. There's the security issues of, if you're putting data into AI, it can pull that out and it can share it out to other people. So just being aware of those limitations. And then even with the tools, there are some AI course builders out there, but you really want to test those to make sure they're working properly. I've tried a few of them out. Some of them change your content. Like they'll tell you can upload documents and then it changes the stuff you had in there, so it's no longer accurate. Some pull pirated pictures. Like, they can create shortcuts, but if it's not a good tool, it will create a lot more work and open you up to all kinds of liability issues. So yeah, just be careful with what you're using it for and being aware of the terms and conditions of those tools.
All right. Well, we have reached the end. Thank you so much for being here. I am always so appreciative of the people that come and speak and share your time with us, and expertise means a lot, and it's so encouraging to have when people hear that other people have done it, and that encouragement just goes a long way, because then more people get jobs that they're happier in. I appreciate it so much. All right, I hope to see you all back here in October, and if not, maybe sometime down the road. Have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you then. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Jared.